In this video, we'll create a Kubernetes cluster with K3s. Then we'll see how we could manage that cluster from FreeBSD with kubectl. And at the end, we'll deploy a Go application with 3 replicas. I'm using Vagrant to provision to OpenSUSE virtual machine. I'm assigning private IP 41, 42, each with 2 GB RAM and 2 CPUs. This is my FreeBSD machine. I'm going to manage the Kubernetes cluster with kubectl. Kubectl package is available in the repository, so let's install that. Vagrant status shows 2 virtual machines are ready to use, so let's SSH to VM1. Switch to root user and install AppArmor pattern. A pattern is a group of packages in OpenSUSE. AppArmor is a Linux kernel security module that can restrict the container's access to resources. Without AppArmor install, the Kubernetes will fail to create containers. Now let's SSH to VM2 and do the same. I'm going to follow these tutorials and I will add the link in the description. Here I'm installing K3s with funnel network. VM1 will be my master node and the VM2 will be my worker node. To join VM2 as a worker node, I need the token from the master node. Now the Kubernetes cluster is ready. This K3s YAML is the kubeconfig file. This is just for copy the file, don't do it. Now let's copy the kubeconfig file to my FreeBSD machine. Change the server IP to the master node IP, which is 192.168.5641. Now let's move the kubeconfig to its default location, which is .kube/config. So we can access the cluster from this machine. I'm going to create a namespace named test. Namespace is created. Now I'm going to create a deployment. The image I'm using is the Go Hello World from my Docker Hub registry. I'm creating 3 replicas and I'm using test namespace. Three containers are created and they're running. Now let's create a service. The default service type is cluster IP, which is only accessible from inside cluster. To access from outside of the cluster, I'm going to create another kind of service named node port service. This built on top of cluster IP. Change the name. You could name it anything. Change the type to node port and add another port, node port 30020. Now we can access the application. Thanks.